Professionally, I'm a scientist, a strong believer of global health and health equity, and an entrepreneur now. Personally, I'm a mom first before anything else. I'm a daughter-in-law, wife, friend, mentor to many. So I was born in Delhi and did my initial schooling and my undergrad in Delhi. Grew up in a very, if I may say so, typical Bengali family, with not so much resources, but a lot of fun, a lot of stress on academics, but as you can imagine, a lot of stress on cultural. So we grew up with art, music, poetry, etc., in a very large, extended family setup. So we were a very nuclear family, but everybody was, our own. So that's the setup. I grew up in a colony which was full of teachers. So I had many parents in that environment. But I think leaving post my graduate work, I was fortunate to get selected to Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, for my master's and PhD. The bug for science started there. It was absolutely fantastic time. We were encouraged, ask questions, don't, nothing should prevent your learning. And I've taken that to heart all these years. After my PhD, went to Yale University, US for my postdoctoral research, got the flavor of global science and, working with various different folks from different countries, and it just makes you grow in different ways. I was a very blinkered, if I may say, scientific person at that time, only wanted to do academic, nothing else, only fundamental research. And I actually joined industry by chance. It was something, I came back to India, I was offered a position. We said, okay, why not? Let's come back to India. And that's how we joined. And I think I got converted very much today, if I look back, to a product developer, somebody who discovers medicine and vaccines. After my joining industry, and absolutely loved it. So my first role was with Biocon, and I have continued that with AstraZeneca, Kinexum, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. With the foundation, which was something I was there till last 6 months, I think the whole belief on global health and health equity got more and more strengthened. And you get a voice and you get a ability to influence. It just feels, and you work with the best of the world. I also realize a lot is happening. Innovations are happening, expected to happen in global north. And India is very good with manufacturing, very good with CMC, but there are not that many new medicines we are offering to the world. And with that thought, we started a startup in Bangalore. Call it brave or foolish, I don't know, but we did start it, thinking we will do innovative drug discovery and vaccine discovery research. We are set up in C Camp, Bangalore, and IIT Chennai, and we have been able to establish computational tools that make design of drugs and medicines more effective. So that's in a nutshell. I gave you, brief, mixed with personal and professional, but that's who I am. I'll be very honest, and I like science in all forms. I will not, science in general, as my husband jokes, that's your first love, daughter, science, then everything else falls in. I love it in all forms. I think what converted is, there's amazing amount of inequity. I do hope people realize that there's so much beautiful medicines that exist, but it's not accessible to all the entire world. It, and I don't want to, belabor that. And we have been very fortunate to be, trained by best of the people, mentored by people, have colleagues across the globe, who have influenced us. And I think it's the time when we can do for the next generation, right? I wouldn't say I would work on any indication, and I want to make sure I am honest about it. Any indication that impacts a patient life, I will work on that, as long as you can think that there's a solution. But there is a driver behind that how do I then make it available, not just to, a certain segment of the world, put to the rest of the world? What can we do to make it accessible, right? Can we look at cost of goods? Can we look at temperature stability? It's like any design. You design iPhone, right? Why do so many people like iPhone? There are certain design features that appeal to them. So same way, when you design a vaccine or a drug, or in this, when I say drug, it just means medicines. When a very beginning, a discovery scientist, he has to do something which will happen after 15 years. A drug takes 12 to 15 years from discovery to launch. So imagine the length of time that goes through and the number of people who work on it and the cross-functionality of expertise that come in. So actually drug discovery and development is a very humbling experience because no one person can say I did. Every with a certain chemist is needed. What I mean is personality is needed. Even finance people, they don't have the right pricing. It'll never say never reach in patient's hand. It's very different. So I think at the design stage, if you can think, how can I make it available to every community? How can I take in gender specific requirements? And I can give you lots of examples where, how we don't think about it. There might be a specific requirement. Even when we design, you wouldn't believe contraception to a certain segment. But what I mean is, if you would make it inclusive and you can make medicines that are accessible. So that's what my definition always is. It's not that I will only work on TB or I will only work on, but anything you work on. Cancer is there everywhere. Diabetes is there everywhere. It's not that something is there in some parts of the world and something is not. But how can we make those cutting edge innovations available to everybody? So I think that's where a discovery is actually should get tuned to thinking that way. There's a lot of people, and I'll give you this. I have some fantastic co-founders, and we have this debate already. Early discovery, we say, don't worry of cost of goods. But you have to keep thinking. If something is so expensive, your parent won't be able to take it. Sorry about it. What I mean is, it will not be available to your neighbor. So I think that's what it means by designing things or designing vaccines and medicines that is amenable to the entire, patients of the entire world, is what I think a mind shift that should change, and not just say, okay, we will worry about it later. Let's first launch it in segments that can afford it, because that later never comes. Believe me, it's so expensive and it's so time consuming. And once you start making money, I'm being very fair, you don't have time to go back and improve it. So better to do it from the beginning. Anyway, lots on that. So you asked about influences, and maybe I'll take a step back. So I think my biggest influence in a personal life as an individual has been my parents. They have been, I can't even say that I grew up in an environment where we had any differential treatment. No way. I have a brother, you are expected everything similar. I never grew up with the concept that girls have something different, because we grew up very same expectations, same discipline, same responsibilities, So very privileged. They shaped our value system. They gave us unconditional love, but they taught us discipline, respect, responsibility. So they have been really the largest influence. All my friends, I have exceptional friends. They're all weird in their own way, including my husband, who's one of my best friends, and my in-laws. My mom-in-law is one of the person I chat the most, and she'll be very interested. She had all these ideas about what we should do for COVID research. We have to tell her, no more. So what I mean is, each of them have done their job of shaping a thinking. And any day you can sit and brainstorm an idea. I have enough to brainstorm and say, hey, why don't we try this out? So I think those communities, and of course your family, that makes you feel you belong somewhere. Because I don't know if you feel, our parents lived in the same geographical location, same place. So they had a very strong sense of belonging. We have traveled so much that you need also grounding forces. Say, okay, I can go back here and this is who I am. So these were some of the strong influences. Professionally, I think I've learned from, and I can say this with a lot of belief in my heart, I've learned from every conversation, be it every program. Even today, it was very uncomfortable for me to talk about myself. This is not something I've done. The first time I'm doing it. But this is a learning exercise, you see what I mean? So what I think what's helped me, at least in my journey, and my journey has not, a lot of people tell us how to plan careers. And I don't know, because we have just taken the next step, which felt right at that moment. And your heart said, hey, let's do it. I think, but the good thing is I've always learned, and I've said, okay, this is something new. I didn't know that, or this thinking is new. So every interaction, colleague, mentor, people who have different ideas, who have challenged you, your team members, the youngest of them, have taught you something different. And now on a pretty serious, so I think one of my recent biggest learning, and why you asked about why I've become so, I've taken a different lens on, equity, is I have learned so much from my daughter. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I have a neuroatypical child. You suddenly realize that what we all think is norm is different. And that has really opened up my world, that there are differences, and how do you make it an inclusive world, and what can you do for that? So I think she has grown me a lot more. And she taught me you can be joyful even when things don't go right. So she's been, I think I'm my biggest teacher right now, although she doesn't know that. So yeah, long answer to your question. But those were some of the influences. So she has quite a lot of, learning challenges and difficulties. So she's an atypical learner, which is very difficult to explain to people, because, unless you can imagine, right? If you can see a difficulty physically, it's easy to explain. But if you can't see it, for example, she has dyslexia, she has orthodysgraphia, dysgraphia. I mean, that's been my biggest, if you ask me all the things I have done, being a parent to a child who's differently abled, has been both me and my husband. It's just not I am doing it. My husband is, we are different, but we bring in, has been our biggest challenge, I would say, learning, I would say, and it has groomed us to be better human beings. We're still on the journey. I wouldn't be worried. All the natural responses, we worry. But, it has taught us so much. We have learned so much. We have met parents. You are amazed at, how much people contribute, and we are humbled by that. There are times we get frustrated, but there are times we said, okay, it's not that world used to think like was a project plan. You see, we all think world is a project plan. You do this, your child has to go to IIT. That's how we grew up. But I had to unlearn a lot of things. I have to unlearn that, maybe academics is not the only thing. Maybe, you follow your heart. There are different paths to the same thing. Being happy is, how can you give back to the society? Anyway, so there's lots associated, and you're continuously growing in this journey. Research has been a common theme across, though, as you can imagine, people in the world feel, if you're in academics, people feel, oh, industry is different. If you're in industry, people feel academics is different. Okay, so though it has increased, the conversations have increased, and shifts have increased, but generally people don't move around so much, right? So I enjoyed academics, and then when I joined the industry, hated it for 6 months. I won't pretend, because you're coming with a baggage, no? They don't do cutting edge science, right? But then when you see the impact they can create, and translate a good science into a good medicine, you suddenly get hooked onto it. So I did that journey with Biocon. I was one of the members of the team who initiated biosimilars program at that time, and it was very low key. Nobody told us this is how it was just entrepreneurial. Hey, can you do it? Let's do it. Let's 4 of us sit. It was like that. Today, they are approved in, first 2 programs that we initiated. Everybody knows Biocon for biosimilars. But believe me, we were one of the 2-3 of us were the founding people. No top management told us to do it. It was like, okay, can you do it? Let's try it. Is the regulatory framework. The impact you can feel now, imagine the number of countries, it has been people, patients, it has become accessible to. I'm just giving an example how small the seed you put in. Many people have worked on it, but how it grows. From there, I went to AstraZeneca, which was purely discovery research, pure discovery, novel molecules. And actually, when I have a very good relationship with not only AstraZeneca, India that used to exist, even global. I know I've worked with global leadership. So first question was asked, hey, you have done more development there. Do you really think you can do discovery? Because it's not usual. And then I did discovery for 4.5 years, took a anti-TB. That was the first anti-TB molecule from India. We took it all the way to clinic. It's still with the Global Alliance, sits there. Once AstraZeneca divested of the infection unit, it's still alive and it is in phase 2 right now. So I don't think science is different. From there, I actually left because of my daughter was not keeping good health, and I had absolutely no clue what I'll do, I'll be honest. No clue. And I was very confused till Kinexum came in and said that, why don't you consult? And I was really telling them, are you really sure? I've never done consulting. They said, sure. And trust us, do consulting. And that's when I became the preclinical consultant from very early discovery to entry into clinical trials, entry into man. And worked with global clients and realized I have something to contribute and have a different perspective because I have worn so many hats. I have done small molecule research, biologics research. I've worked with early discovery, development. So I think that added to the perspective. I had a different thing to share. Post Kinexum, I was working well. I was in India, no problem, settling down. When Gates Foundation has an outreach, and I've been fortunate that way, that people have had outreaches and said that we have a role of senior program officer, consider it. And I was very hesitant because I didn't want to move to Seattle. At that time, I was uncomfortable what impact it'll have on my daughter because another transition. At least my mom-in-law who told me that try it. Because you see another different environment, maybe they have different ways you are trying to figure out ways of parenting, ways of schooling for her, go and learn, maybe that system is different. That's how we moved. I also was very interested to see how foundation works at the global scale. I won't pretend, I wanted to see that. So my role there, you asked about my role, I was a senior program officer whose shop. So how does foundation work? They are a funding body, right? They give money. But the story does not end there. They're not only funding body. It's a very clear, it's hard to explain to people, when I have to fund a grant, internally, it's almost like a pitching game. Every program officer, all the work is done by senior program officers, okay? They're all pitching for an idea that this group, we identify a group, we give them the question, we say we want this for global health, we make collaborations, consortiums, and we are equally responsible for the return of investment, which in this case comes as scientific advancement. So that's the role. How have you impacted science of the global science? How have you built networks and connections? How have you taken two people who will never work, brought them together and got something more than 2 + 2 or 1 + 1? So that's the role of program officers. It's absolutely fantastic. And I was fortunate because I steered their COVID therapeutics response. It was unprecedented time. It was immense pressure. It almost felt that the entire weight of the world is on your shoulders. I know all of us felt it. It's not, I'm just saying. And it was an area where none of us, so I was in a discovery group. We didn't have an antiviral footprint. In my team, we are a member of 6 people. I was the only woman, only person from Asia, probably. But in my team, I was the only biologist. So that fell on me, and it was an amazing journey. Everybody, you would have seen in that 2 years, globally, the amount of collaboration, the pace of innovation, the contribution, everybody chipped in at their own pace and time, and had the pleasure to work with WHO, DNDi, all the global bodies who had the same intention. Maybe not always cohesive in their own way. And how do you make them cohesive? So that was the role of the foundation. As you asked me a very appropriate question, I have answered this many times. Typically for people, foundation is a dream role. It is close to a dream role for me because my heart and head matched in that role. Then why come out of it, right? 2 reasons. I came out because my in-laws are not doing good health, and we decided this is a good time. we have to be there for them. But also, we wanted to build an innovative unit from India, an ecosystem. Hopefully, it'll grow into an ecosystem. I have amazing co-founders. I work with two of my co-founders, and I miss foundation and the role. When I say foundation, I mean the role that you do, the amount of impact you can have on the science, and the number of people you can learn from. Everybody is a good. You can have something to learn. But when you come back, I just wanted to make sure that our driver was, we'll do it in India. We will take hard challenges, and we will contribute a new molecules. So that drive was so stressful or not. I'm learning. I feel I'm back in kindergarten. I know less of business. So we are learning every day. But it's a start of a new journey. We'll see where we land on. You asked me what my company presently does. So we started off, we are a platforms development company. Basically, we will build technologies, right? Different technologies over the years, cutting in innovative technologies. And two things, we will offer it as services or partnership globally, but we will also use it for our own questions and make molecules that then can get out licensed for development. It's as simple as that. So the first technology that we developed for computational platforms, we have 3 of them. I won't go into, which is mostly for drug and vaccines designs. It is almost ready. We have good validation studies now. So I am, and it's very interesting. This week has been when we are brainstorming, what should we now do to make it visible, make it, go out in the world, have our first paying customer, have our first partnership, so it's all many first. And so those are ready for offer. The second technology we have established in our labs with no in-licensing is the mRNA technology. We all know about mRNA technology, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. We decided we will establish it with no in-licensing. We have not in-licensed anything. We have designed it ourselves. We have built our proof of concepts. And then now we are ready to use it for other products. And we would love to use it for monoclonal antibodies. We'll see where we land up. So our way of working is learn first, improve it, then use it to build a differentiated pipeline. So that's pretty much, we are seeing that's the theme that's happening. Learn, improve, build in every platform that we. So global pharma is a giant, right? People often view them in a very negative. I've been a part of global pharma. I've been a part of Indian pharma. I've been part of startups. And I've been part of philanthropy and also open research. So I've been in every environment. See, global pharma is not one individual or it's just that they are doing their best to, make medicines, which is an expensive affair, as well as keep the things running. So we are at this moment we are at -1 stage. Okay, we are not even visible. But I would say they are our customers, if you have to say, because we know our capabilities. We can innovate, but we don't have the muscle to take it all the way to launch. You need the pharma partners there, because whatever it's said and done, they are the best at it, right? So if I have to view, I will say they are our partners and our customers. If we build technology, ask them, can you give projects where we work through it? If we build molecules, can you take up licensing and you develop it? So I don't think they will view, and it is happening. We are not the only ones. I'm sure the world is changing. Global pharma, the big pharma giants are now more and more in licensing from biotechs. They are picking up technologies, because biotechs or this early smaller groups have the advantage of being nimble. You don't have the bureaucracy. You don't have to build a 5-year strategy. You can be nimble and you can do something innovative, but you can't make it available at the global scale. So you need that partnership. So I would say I always believe there is a space for everybody in this, continuum. Each of us have a role. A small group has a role, the pharma has a role, the academic has a role, the philanthropy has a role, because each of them is serving some purpose. And you really can't do away with one of the body and say, we don't need them. How much we like or dislike based on our experience or opinion. So that is my global pharma. And I have a lot of best of my friends in lots of global pharma. So my next approach would be to actually start our outreach. You put a very right point. We are converting. You will see if you talk to me, probably I'm hoping after a year, my conversation will come a lot more business savvy, because we are learning that we have established us as a scientists, but now we have to establish ourselves as business folks, where you actually are able to monetize your innovations and pay salaries and benefits to the people who have been with you. So I think that's the conversion our team at least is going through right now. We are talking to a lot of mentors, not from the scientific world. We are actually talking to the financial world, trying to understand how businesses have happened, learn from people who have done before us. We are not the only people who are doing it. There are people who have done before us. How can we learn from them, and how do we approach? So that's the transition pivot point we are in at this moment, because we are ready to monetize our first platform. And we absolutely need to learn that. So we didn't even have a website or a LinkedIn page. I should not say this out loud. As the first thing we are creating now. So you can imagine how the corner about my husband. I must say, though a lot of people in his workplace were not very happy about it. Initially thought he is from a technology world, okay, and he's from MBA. He's my blind control for science. So whenever I have to pitch something and see, does he understand? Like, you do it this way. And he has in recent years transitioned to learning and development, and he's extremely thrilled by it. So he runs a lot of things in design thinking, AI, storytelling. So it's very interesting. We have a lot of sharing, if I may say so, on things, right? And he's very, very also passionate about social corporate responsibility, how that can influence, etc. So he actually wanted to do his PhD. Believe me or not, he had that bug in his. I have done corporate for 25 years. So he went to Seattle, applied for PhD, did his GRE at this age. I couldn't believe it. I was having a heart attack by doing it, but he did it. He got it. He got a very good position. But he had to come back because, as I said, his parents were not well. So out of, 3.5 years I was in the US, he was actually probably there for a year, and he's been taking care of his parents. My mom, I mean, this is not something I should share, but my mom-in-law is now stage 4 lung cancer, and my father had a hip injury, so he absolutely needed to be back. But he came back and he again applied for PhD with his job, and he's doing a PhD. And I keep saying, he asked me, tell me the maths problems. I don't know, you do it yourself. He's saying, I'm not being a supportive wife. But no, he's tried his best. Visa was not very, as you can imagine, during COVID, etc. Visa was very difficult. So we didn't find a place which was where the visa worked out well. But it was interesting. I mean, our friends tell us we keep doing random things, not very organized, as you see. Yeah, so I saw that failures, there's no absolute failures, in my opinion. There are things that don't go the way you had planned, and sometimes you take a different path by intentionally or strategically, and sometimes you just force through it, right? But sometimes it turns out very good. So I'll tell you simple. I have three very basic ones. I like all of us, you have engineering or medicine. I sat through medicine. And I come from a family of doctors. Everybody in my family, everybody in my in-laws family is a doctor. Me and my husband are the only ones who are not physicians at all. So I sat through my exam. Everybody, my father, my brother, everybody's like, yeah, you have to do this, has to. And I did not get through the first time. It was 1 mark left or something, one just at the borderline. And then I joined biochemistry, and I really started enjoying it. And my father asked, the next time they said, yeah, you should appear again. And I said, no. And I was not sure how it would be. My dad said, are you sure? I said, no, I'm not going to do medicine. And then I'm amazed. I mean, because everybody is a doctor, and they said, he said, okay, whatever you do, you have to do well. That was the philosophy given to us. So that was, and I'm a scientist just because I didn't get through medicine. The second, I would say I'm a drug developer because somebody gave me this role of doing drug discovery. And I hated that individual at that point, that, oh, I want to do fundamental research. Why are they giving me this? Do they think I'm, less of a scientist? All the biases. But I'm so glad he did it, because 3 months I kept very quiet. I worked with a project lead who was fantastic, who also happens to be my co-founder now. And 3 months I did not talk anything because I didn't understand anything. What were they talking? But after 3 months, got a hang of it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm willing to take over the project now. So it was, so I think all these examples where you have really not, either it's been put on you or you have not met something, if you enjoy the alternate path, I think that works. And sometimes I joke that I ended up where I am just out of these accidental, happenings. So these were when you ask failures, these were some of the failures, like, any student's life, or I didn't get through medicine, or I didn't do fundamental research, because we grew up with that. I don't know, back then that was the big thing, right? You have to do medicine or engineering in a typical family, So those are some of the failures. Be patient. That's not my virtue, but I have learned. I actually have, though, you have to ask my friends and my husband, but I believe I have become very patient patience is not calmness. Patience is not energy. Patience is when you keep doing, if you believe something, even though you can't see the outcome. Okay. And not get worked up about it. I think that's one thing I have to inculcate. It was not given. I will not pretend, right? You have to inculcate slowly and steadily, work on yourself. So my younger self is, be patient. You can't see everything. There is ambiguity, live with the ambiguity, enjoy the ambiguity, find a path out. Most importantly, be patient. Things will happen and may not be exactly the way you want them to be, but maybe it'll be an outcome is better. You don't know which way it go, better or worse. So just be at it if it feels right. That's my episode. I don't think it's for women or men. For me, the best reward would be to grow next generation scientists. Have that feeling in you. We can innovate and give it to the world, right? Create that ecosystem where I don't know, maybe I'm saying this a little bit harshly, so please apologies on that. We still have a little bit of culture of senior said, junior will not talk. Do you understand? So it should not be like that. Every voice should be heard. Be collaborative. You cannot work alone. How great you may be, best of the world. And we learned all this hard way. You can't. So you have to be collaborative. Collaboration, innovation, and listen, learn. I will see if I can grow. And I've been fortunate. I feel thrilled. So, and that should become, then they pay it forward. And then it becomes an ecosystem. India does fantastically. So I've been in many, many global arena and space and forum. If you ask India, everybody will recognize, and I'm talking in the pharmaceutical and the biotech world, is for manufacturing, for scale, for, process innovation. Nobody will stand up and say, hey, they discover well. Now you should change that. And who will change that is not me, you. Number of scientists, when they become, when there's a critical mass, that'll change. It has to change, right? So I think my paying forward is that. And the second is that I've been toying a lot is, of course, instilling good values. And that is every parent does it, right? And the next set of, I meet a lot of young women, at least I used to meet at the foundation, who will ask, tell us what's your journey, what's your inspiration? My way of thinking is, be yourself. You can't be anybody else. You be yourself. While you learn from others, be yourself. And that works. You'll at least get best of the journey. I don't know about the outcome, but you'll enjoy. So that's my paying it forward.